My dad burst into my room screaming, "Who told your mother?" I was sitting at my desk doing calculus homework when he slammed the door so hard the frame cracked. His face was purple-red, veins bulging in his neck, spit flying from his mouth. I'd never seen him this angry, not even when I wrecked his truck last year or when I got suspended for fighting. This was different. This was rage mixed with panic, mixed with something that looked like fear. I dropped my pencil and stood up slowly, hands raised like he was pointing a gun at me. "Dad, what are you talking about?" He crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed my shirt, yanked me close enough that I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "Your mother just confronted me about the cabin, about Rachel, about everything. Somebody told her, and I know it wasn't your brother because Ethan doesn't know anything, so it had to be you." My stomach dropped to the floor. The cabin. Rachel. I knew exactly what he was talking about, and the fact that Mom now knew meant everything was about to explode. "I didn't tell her anything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. Dad's grip tightened on my shirt. "Don't lie to me, Trevor. Your mother knows details only you and I know. She knows about the separate bank account. She knows about the property deed. She knows Rachel's last name. Nobody else has that information." I pulled away from him, and he let go, started pacing my small bedroom like a caged animal. I genuinely didn't tell Mom anything. I swear. How would I even know to tell her? "You think I want to be in the middle of your mess?" Dad stopped pacing and stared at me with narrowed eyes, calculating whether to believe me. Then who? Who else could possibly know? I thought about that question. Dad had been careful, obsessively careful about his secret life. The cabin upstate, the woman named Rachel he'd been seeing for 3 years, the money he'd been siphoning from his business account to pay for it all. I'd only found out by accident 6 months ago when I'd borrowed his laptop and found emails he'd forgotten to delete. Confronting him had been the worst conversation of my life. He'd made me promise not to tell Mom, said it would destroy the family, said I'd ruin my younger brother's childhood if I said anything. I'd kept that promise even though it ate at me every single day watching Mom smile at Dad across the dinner table, completely unaware her husband was living a double life. "Maybe Mom figured it out herself," I suggested. "Maybe she found something you left out?" Dad shook his head violently. "No." She quoted specific things from emails. She knew about the cabin being purchased in Rachel's name to hide it from joint assets. She knew about the trips I claimed were for work that were actually weekends with Rachel. Somebody told her everything. My bedroom door opened, and my younger brother Ethan stood there looking confused and scared. "What's going on? Why is everyone yelling?" Dad wheeled on him. "Get out. This doesn't concern you." Ethan's eyes went wide. He was only 13, still young enough to be terrified of Dad's anger. He backed out and closed the door. I heard his footsteps running down the hallway. Dad turned back to me. "I need to know who told your mother, right now, because whoever it was just destroyed 22 years of marriage and tore this family apart." I felt anger rising in my chest, pushing past the fear. "You destroyed the marriage. You tore the family apart when you started cheating 3 years ago. Don't put this on whoever told Mom the truth." Dad's hand shot out and grabbed my throat, slammed me against the wall. My vision went spotty. His face was inches from mine. "You self-righteous little punk. You think you understand anything about marriage, about what your mother and I have been through?" I couldn't breathe, couldn't answer, just clawed at his hand trying to get air. He held me there for another 3 seconds that felt like an hour, then released me. I collapsed to the floor, gasping. When I looked up, Dad was already walking out of my room. I'm going to find out who talked. And when I do, they're going to regret it. I sat on my floor for a long time after he left, rubbing my throat and trying to process what just happened. My dad had just choked me, actually put his hands around my throat and squeezed. That crossed a line we couldn't uncross. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and texted my best friend, Lucas. "My dad just assaulted me. Can I come over?" Lucas responded immediately. "What? Are you okay? What happened?" I didn't answer. Just grabbed my car keys and wallet, climbed out my bedroom window because I didn't want to walk past Dad, and drove to Lucas's house across town. His parents weren't home. We sat in his basement, and I told him everything. About finding out about Dad's affair 6 months ago. About the cabin and Rachel and the hidden money. About Mom finding out somehow, and Dad accusing me and then choking me. Lucas stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "Dude, your dad choked you. You need to call the police." I shook my head. "I can't. That'll make everything worse. My family's already falling apart. How is it going to make it worse? Your dad committed assault. He belongs in jail." I wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Lucas was right. What Dad did was criminal, but calling the police felt like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Trevor, where are you? Come home, please. We need to talk as a family." I showed Lucas the text. He read it and said, "Don't go back there tonight. Stay here. My parents won't mind." I wanted to stay, wanted to hide from the disaster waiting at home, but I couldn't. Ethan was there alone with both parents and whatever nuclear explosion was happening. He didn't deserve to deal with that by himself. I texted Mom back, coming home now. The drive back felt like driving toward a execution. Every red light was a chance to turn around. Every stop sign was an opportunity to just keep going, drive anywhere else. But I didn't. I pulled into our driveway 20 minutes later and sat in my car staring at our house. The lights were all on. Through the kitchen window I could see Mom and Dad standing on opposite sides of the room. Mom's arms were crossed. Dad's hands were gesturing wildly. They were fighting, probably the biggest fight of their marriage. I got out of the car and walked to the front door, let myself in quietly. Their voices carried from the kitchen. Mom's voice was steady and cold. 22 years, Dennis. 22 years I've been faithful to you, raised your children, supported your business, and you've been lying to my face for 3 years. Dad's voice was defensive, almost whining. It's not what you think, Carla. Rachel is just a friend. We haven't done anything inappropriate. The business trips were real. You're misunderstanding the emails. I walked into the kitchen doorway. Both of them turned to look at me. Mom's face was red and blotchy from crying. Dad's jaw was clenched tight. Mom spoke first. Trevor, I need you to tell me the truth. Did you know about your father's affair? I looked at Dad. His eyes were warning me, threatening me silently. Then I looked at Mom and saw the devastation written all over her face. She deserved the truth. I knew. I've known for 6 months. Mom's face crumpled. She put a hand over her mouth like she might be sick. 6 months? You knew for 6 months and didn't tell me? Her voice was barely a whisper. I wanted to tell you. Dad made me promise not to. He said it would destroy the family if you found out. Mom laughed, but there was no humor in it. Just bitterness and pain. The family is already destroyed, Trevor. Your father destroyed it the moment he started sleeping with another woman. I'm not sleeping with her, Dad shouted. For the love of God, Carla, I'm not having an affair. Then explain the cabin, Mom shot back. Explain the property deed in Rachel's name. Explain the withdrawals from the business account totaling over $80,000 in the last 3 years. Explain the emails talking about missing her and counting down days until you see her again. Dad opened his mouth and closed it, opened it again. The cabin is an investment property. Rachel is managing it for me. The money is legitimate business expenses. You're taking everything out of context. Mom pulled out her phone and started reading. I can't wait to have you in my arms again. These 2 weeks apart have been torture. Tell me you love me. She looked up. That's from your email to Rachel last month. Still want to claim she's just a business associate? The room went silent. Dad's face had gone from red to pale white. Where did you get those emails? Mom smiled, but it was sharp and dangerous. I have my sources. People who care about me more than you apparently do. People who thought I deserved to know my husband was a cheating liar. Dad's eyes snapped to me. You sent her the emails. I shook my head. I didn't. I swear to God I didn't. But Dad wasn't listening. He moved toward me, and Mom stepped between us. Don't you dare touch him again, Dennis. I saw the marks on his neck when he came in. You already assaulted him once tonight. Do it again, and I'm calling the police. Dad stopped, but the rage in his eyes didn't diminish. He pointed at me. This is your fault. You couldn't keep your mouth shut. Now look what you've done. I didn't tell her, I shouted. But honestly, I wish I had. Mom deserved to know months ago. I was wrong to keep your secret. Mom looked at me with this mix of hurt and understanding. You should have told me, Trevor. But I understand why you didn't. Your father is very good at manipulation, at making people feel like they're responsible for keeping his secrets. I felt tears burning in my eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have told you the first day I found out. She crossed the room and pulled me into a hug. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Over Mom's shoulder, I saw Dad's expression shift from rage to something calculating. He pulled out his phone and started typing. Mom released me and turned back to Dad. What are you doing? Texting my lawyer, Dad said without looking up. I need to know my options before this goes any further. Options? Mom's voice went up an octave. What options? You cheated on me. You hid assets. You lied for 3 years. The only option here is divorce. Dad finished typing and looked up. We're not getting divorced. This is a misunderstanding that we can work through. I'll go to counseling. We'll fix this. Mom laughed again. That same bitter sound. You think I'd stay married to you after this? You think counseling can fix 3 years of betrayal? Dennis, you built a whole separate life behind my back. You have a cabin with another woman. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Multiple choices over and over again. I'm done. Dad's phone buzzed. He read something, and his expression shifted to satisfaction. My lawyer says until we file for divorce, everything in both our names is joint property. That includes this house, the business, both cars, all bank accounts. If you try to kick me out or freeze accounts, you'll be in legal trouble. Mom's face went hard. Fine. Then we're filing for divorce first thing Monday morning. Dad smiled. Go ahead. But you should know I've already moved significant assets into protected accounts. You'll get what the court says you deserve, which won't be as much as you think. I felt sick listening to them talk about money and property like that was what mattered. Mom had just found out about a 3-year affair, and Dad was already strategizing how to protect his wealth. Where's Ethan? I asked suddenly. Both parents looked at me like they'd forgotten I was there. He's in his room, Mom said. I told him to stay there until we figured things out. I need to check on him. I left the kitchen and climbed the stairs to Ethan's room. Knocked softly. Ethan, can I come in? No answer. I opened the door anyway. Ethan was sitting on his bed with his headphones on, laptop open in front of him. When he saw me, he pulled the headphones off. Is it over? Are they done fighting? I sat on the edge of his bed. I don't think this kind of fight ever ends. Ethan, there's something you need to know. I told him everything. About Dad's affair, about the cabin, about Rachel. Ethan listened with his face getting progressively paler. When I finished, he just stared at me. Dad's been cheating on Mom? For 3 years? I nodded. I found out 6 months ago. I should have told you, but I didn't know how. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. Who told Mom? That's what I want to know. I've been thinking about it. The only people who knew were me, Dad, and Rachel. Unless Rachel told someone or Dad told someone, I don't know how Mom found out. Ethan bit his lip like he was deciding something. Then he said quietly, I told her. My brain stopped processing for a second. What? I told Mom. I sent her all the emails from Dad's computer. I copied them to a flash drive 2 weeks ago when Dad left his laptop open. I sent them to Mom's email this morning. I stared at my little brother. You? You're the one who told her? Ethan met my eyes and his were full of anger and determination. Someone had to. You weren't going to. You were just going to let Dad keep lying. Mom deserved to know the truth. I felt this weird mix of pride and concern. Ethan was only 13, but he'd done what I couldn't bring myself to do. But you have no idea what you just started? Dad is furious. He's looking for whoever told. Ethan's jaw set stubbornly. Good. He should be furious. He's the one who ruined everything. I couldn't argue with that logic, but I was terrified for what would happen when Dad found out it was Ethan. Dad already choked me tonight when he thought I told. If he finds out it was you, Ethan's eyes widened. He choked you? I pulled down my collar and showed him the red marks forming on my neck. Dad grabbed my throat and slammed me against the wall, accused me of destroying the family. Ethan looked horrified and guilty at the same time. This is my fault. You got hurt because of what I did. No, I said firmly. You did the right thing. Dad got violent because he's desperate and angry that his lies got exposed. That's on him, not you. But Ethan, you can't tell Dad it was you. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. He's dangerous right now. Ethan nodded slowly. What do? We protect Mom and we protect each other. And tomorrow we figure out what comes next. Downstairs, the fighting had gotten louder. We could hear Dad's voice booming about lawyers and prenuptial agreements and Mom's voice cutting through saying she didn't care about money. She wanted a divorce and she wanted him out of the house. Ethan looked scared. Are they going to get divorced? I think so, buddy. I think that's already decided. Will we have to choose who to live with? Probably. Ethan was quiet for a minute. I'd choose Mom. She didn't do anything wrong. Me too. We sat there listening to our parents destroy their marriage in real time. Then Ethan said something that surprised me. I'm not sorry, I told her. Even with everything that's happening, I'm not sorry. Mom deserved to know. I put my arm around his shoulders. You're braver than me. I knew for 6 months and couldn't say anything. You found out and immediately did something about it. That takes guts. Ethan leaned against me. I was so mad at you for not telling her. Every time I saw them together acting like everything was fine, I wanted to scream. When I found Dad's laptop open and saw the emails, I knew I had to do something. How did you even know to look? I didn't. I was just using his computer to print something for school, and the email was already pulled up. I saw Rachel's name and got curious, so I read one. Then I read more. Then I copied all of them to a flash drive before Dad came back. Smart, I admitted. Did you read all of them? Ethan nodded, his face scrunching up in disgust. They were gross. All this lovey stuff and talking about missing each other. One email talked about how Dad wished he could leave Mom and be with Rachel full-time, but he couldn't because of us kids. That must have hurt to read. Ethan shrugged, but I could see the pain in his eyes. It made me understand that we're basically the only reason he's still here. Not because he loves Mom, just because divorce with kids is complicated. The fighting downstairs had stopped. We heard footsteps on the stairs, both of us tensed. The footsteps went past Ethan's room to the master bedroom. A door slammed. Then more footsteps, these ones coming toward us. Mom appeared in the doorway. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were red and puffy. Mascara smudged down her cheeks. You boys okay? We nodded. Mom came in and sat on the other side of Ethan's bed. I need to tell you both something. Your father and I are separating. He's going to sleep in the guest room tonight, and tomorrow he'll find somewhere else to stay. We're filing for divorce next week. Even though we'd known this was coming, hearing Mom say it out loud made it real. Are you okay, Mom? I asked. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I will be. This is the hardest thing I've ever been through, but I'll survive. We all will. Ethan spoke up, his voice small. Did Dad really have an affair? Mom looked at him carefully, probably trying to decide how much to share. Yes, honey. Your father has been seeing another woman for the past 3 years. He bought a cabin with her upstate. That's where he was going on all those business trips. Ethan nodded, like this confirmed what he already knew. Mom continued, I want you both to know that this has nothing to do with you. Your father and I failed each other, but we both love you very much. That won't change. Do we have to see Dad? Ethan asked. If we don't want to? Mom hesitated. Legally, he has the right to see you. We'll have to work out custody arrangements, but I'll make sure you feel safe, whatever that looks like. I thought about Dad choking me, about the violence in his eyes. I don't feel safe around him anymore, I admitted. Not after tonight. Mom's expression turned fierce. Did he hurt you again after you came home? No, but he did earlier. He grabbed my throat when he accused me of telling you about Rachel. I showed Mom the marks. Her face went pale and then red with anger. She stood up abruptly. I'm calling the police. Mom, don't, I said quickly. That'll make everything worse. Trevor, he assaulted you. That's not okay. I don't care how angry he is. There's no excuse for putting his hands on you. But if you call the police, Dad gets arrested. Then he'll know for sure that someone in this house turned on him. He'll retaliate somehow. Mom looked torn. Finally, she said, we'll compromise. I'm documenting this with photos. If he touches either of you again, I'm calling the police immediately and filing for a restraining order. Agreed? Agreed, I said. Ethan nodded too. Mom took out her phone and photographed the marks on my neck from multiple angles. Then she sat back down. Who told me about the affair? She said quietly. Isn't important. What matters is that the truth came out. Your father is going to be looking for someone to blame. He's going to be angry and possibly dangerous. We all need to be careful. Ethan and I exchanged glances. I could tell he wanted to confess, wanted to take responsibility for what he'd done. I shook my head slightly, warning him to stay quiet. The last thing we needed was for Dad to know a 13-year-old had outsmarted him. Tomorrow is going to be difficult, Mom continued. Your father isn't going to leave without a fight. He's already talking about lawyers and protecting assets. This is going to get ugly. What about the business? I asked. Dad owns that auto repair shop outright, right? Mom shook her head. The business is joint property. I invested my inheritance money into it 15 years ago when he was starting out. The shop is half mine, whether he likes it or not. Does Dad know that? Oh, he knows. He's just hoping I forgot. But I have all the paperwork, all the proof. My lawyer is going to have a field day with his attempts to hide assets. Good, Ethan said with surprising venom. He shouldn't get away with any of this. Mom looked at Ethan with concern. Honey, I know you're angry, but your father is still your father. He made terrible choices, but that doesn't mean he stopped loving you. I don't care if he loves me, Ethan snapped. He hurt Mom. He lied to all of us. As far as I'm concerned, he can leave and never come back. Trevor, talk to your brother, Mom said, standing up. Help him understand this isn't black and white. Then she left, closing the door behind her. Ethan looked at me defiantly. Don't try to convince me to forgive him. I'm not going to, I said. You have every right to be angry. I'm angry too, but Mom's right that this is complicated. Dad's going to want a relationship with us, even after the divorce. We might have to see him sometimes. I'd rather live on the street, Ethan muttered. I understood the feeling. The image of Dad's hand around my throat kept replaying in my mind. The panic of not being able to breathe. The fear in that moment that he might actually hurt me badly. That wasn't something I could just forgive because we shared DNA. We should try to sleep, I suggested. Tomorrow's going to be a nightmare. Ethan nodded, but neither of us moved. We just sat there on his bed listening to the sounds of our parents in different rooms, our family fracturing into pieces that might never fit back together. Eventually, I went back to my own room, lay on my bed staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed with texts from Lucas asking if I was okay, if my family was okay, if I needed anything. I didn't know how to answer any of those questions. Around 2 a.m, I heard a car start in the driveway. I got up and looked out my window. Dad's truck was pulling out, heading down the street. He didn't come back that night. Mom's bedroom door opened around 7 the next morning and she knocked on my door. Trevor, you awake? Yeah, come in. She opened the door, already dressed in jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. Your father left last night. He texted me that he's staying at a motel until he finds an apartment. He wants to meet with both you boys today to talk. I sat up in bed. I don't want to see him. Mom nodded like she expected that. I told him you might not be ready. He's insisting, though. Says he has a right to explain his side. There is no his side, I said. He cheated. He lied. He hid money. Those are facts, not perspectives. I agree, but the law says he's still your father and still has parental rights. Until we go to court and a judge says otherwise, I can't legally prevent him from seeing you. What if I refuse to go? Mom sighed. Then things get more complicated. He could claim I'm alienating you from him. Could use that in the custody battle. I don't want to make things harder for you, Mom, but I also don't want to sit across from Dad and listen to him justify what he did. You don't have to be alone with him, Mom offered. I'll come with you. We can meet in a public place, like a restaurant. Safety in numbers. That made me feel slightly better. Okay, but if he starts yelling or gets aggressive, I'm leaving. Fair enough. Mom checked her watch. He wants to meet at 10. That gives us 2 hours. Go wake up your brother. Tell him what's happening. Ethan took the news about as well as expected. He threw a pillow across his room and said several words. I didn't know he knew. I'm not going. They can't make me. Mom can't legally stop Dad from seeing us, I explained. If you refuse, it makes things harder for her in court. Ethan's face was red with anger and frustration. This isn't fair. Why do we have to do what he wants after what he did? Because the system doesn't care what he did, I said bitterly. Until there's a custody agreement, both parents have equal rights. We have to play along for now. We'll tell the judge later how we really feel. Fine, Ethan spat, but I'm not talking to him. I'm not saying one word. That's your choice. Just don't make it worse for Mom. We got ready in tense silence. Mom drove us to a diner on the edge of town, one of those places that serves breakfast all day. Dad's truck was already in the parking lot. My stomach clenched when I saw it. Mom turned in her seat to look at us before we got out. Remember, we're in public. He won't try anything here. If he does, we leave immediately. Ready? No, but let's get this over with. We walked into the diner and found Dad sitting in a corner booth. He looked terrible, like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His eyes were bloodshot, his face unshaven, his clothes wrinkled. He stood up when he saw us. Carla, boys, thanks for coming. Mom slid into the booth across from him. I sat next to Mom. Ethan squeezed in beside me. Dad sat back down and tried to smile. It came across more like a grimace. I know you're all angry with me. I understand that. But I need a chance to explain. There's nothing to explain, Mom said coldly. You had an affair. You hid it. End of story. It's not that simple, Dad insisted. Rachel and I have a complicated relationship. We met at a business conference 3 years ago. We connected on a level that I haven't felt in years. Connected, Mom repeated flatly. Is that what you're calling it? Dad's jaw tightened. I'm trying to be honest here. Yes, Rachel and I developed feelings for each other, but it started as an emotional affair, not a physical one. Oh, well, that makes it so much better, Mom said sarcastically. You only emotionally betrayed me for how long before it became physical? Dad looked uncomfortable. I'm not going to sit here and give you a timeline. The point is, my relationship with Rachel made me realize things about my marriage that I'd been ignoring. Such as, Mom leaned forward. What things about our marriage justified you building a secret life with another woman? Dad's voice rose slightly. Such as the fact that we stopped being partners years ago. We became roommates raising kids together. When's the last time we had a real conversation, Carla? When's the last time you looked at me like you actually wanted to be with me instead of tolerating me? The nerve of that statement hit me like a slap. Dad was actually trying to blame Mom for his affair, trying to justify his choices by pointing out problems in their marriage that he'd never tried to fix through honest communication. I couldn't stay quiet. You're seriously blaming Mom right now? For your decision to cheat? Dad's eyes snapped to me. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm explaining context, explaining how a good man can make bad choices when he feels invisible in his own marriage. You felt invisible, so you bought a cabin with another woman? I shot back. How does that logic work? Dad's face was getting red again, that familiar anger building. You don't understand adult relationships, Trevor. There are nuances you're not old enough to comprehend. I understand cheating, I said, and I understand lying. Those don't require an adult brain to recognize as wrong. We're getting off track, Mom interrupted. Dennis, why did you ask to meet with the boys? Dad took a breath, visibly trying to calm down. Because I wanted them to hear from me directly that I love them, and that this situation doesn't change that. I wanted them to understand that divorce doesn't mean I stop being their father. It kind of does, though, Ethan said suddenly. We all turned to look at him. It was the first thing he'd said since we arrived. Dad's expression softened. Ethan, buddy, I know this is scary, but I'm still your dad. I'm still going to be here for you. You weren't here for us before, Ethan continued, his voice shaking but determined. You were off with Rachel. You were lying to Mom. You were pretending to be on business trips. How is that being here for us? Those trips were necessary for the business, Dad said weakly. Ethan pulled something from his pocket, a folded piece of paper. He unfolded it and slid it across the table. I printed this from your email. It's dated 6 months ago. He read aloud. Can't wait for this weekend at the cabin. Told Carla I have a trade show in Albany. The boys have soccer, so she won't question it. 3 uninterrupted days with you. Ethan looked up at Dad. You missed my championship game that weekend because you were with Rachel. You told Mom you couldn't cancel the trade show. You lied right to our faces. The table went silent. Dad stared at the printed email like it might burst into flames. Where did you get that? His voice was dangerously quiet. I got it from your laptop, Ethan said, not backing down. Along with about 100 other emails that prove you've been lying to us for 3 years. You were the one, Dad breathed. You sent everything to your mother? Ethan lifted his chin. Yeah, I did. And I'm not sorry. In one swift motion, Dad reached across the table and grabbed Ethan's wrist. You little traitor. You destroyed this family. I lunged forward and shoved Dad's arm away from Ethan. Don't touch him. Dad's eyes were wild. He destroyed everything. Do you understand what he's done? The financial implications? The legal complications? He's a 13-year-old kid who told the truth, I said loudly. Several other diners were looking now. If anyone destroyed this family, it was you. Not Ethan, not me, not Mom. You. Mom stood up. We're leaving. Boys, let's go. Dad stood too, blocking our exit from the booth. We're not done talking. Yes, we are, Mom said firmly. You just tried to grab Ethan in public. We're leaving before this escalates further. Dad didn't move. You can't keep my kids from me, Carla. I have rights. And I have documentation of you assaulting Trevor last night and attempting to grab Ethan just now, Mom countered. Push me, and I'll file for emergency custody and a restraining order. See how your rights hold up then. They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Dad stepped aside. This isn't over. We slid out of the booth and headed for the exit. I could feel Dad's eyes boring into our backs. Once we were in the car, Mom locked the doors and exhaled shakily. That went about as badly as possible. Ethan was crying quietly in the back seat. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought the email. I shouldn't have told him it was me. Mom turned around. Ethan, honey, you did nothing wrong. Your father's reaction is not your fault. But now he knows it was me. What if he tries to hurt me like he hurt Trevor? He won't get the chance, Mom said fiercely. I'm calling my lawyer right now. We're filing for emergency custody and a restraining order. She pulled out her phone and made the call right there in the parking lot. I watched Dad through the diner window. He was still sitting in the booth, head in his hands. Part of me felt sorry for him. Part of me wanted to go back in and scream at him more. Mostly, I just felt exhausted. Mom's conversation with her lawyer lasted 15 minutes. When she hung up, she looked grim. My lawyer says, with the assault on Trevor and the attempted grab today, we have grounds for an emergency order. But we need to file today. The courthouse closes at 4. We have time. Do we have to go? Ethan asked. His face was tear-streaked and he looked younger than 13. You don't, Mom said. I'll bring the photos of Trevor's neck and the witness testimony from the diner. That should be enough. But what about Dad? Won't he be mad we filed without telling him? He'll be furious, Mom admitted. But that's not our problem anymore. Our priority is keeping you boys safe. She started the car and drove toward the courthouse downtown. The building was old brick with columns flanking the entrance. Inside, it smelled like dust and floor polish. Mom approached the clerk's desk and explained what she needed. The clerk, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, handed over a stack of forms. Fill these out completely. Include any documentation of abuse or threatening behavior. You'll see a judge today for the emergency hearing. We sat in hard plastic chairs while Mom filled out form after form. I helped where I could, providing details about what Dad had said and done. Ethan sat silently, staring at the floor. When Mom finished, she handed the forms back to the clerk along with the photos on her phone that the clerk printed. Now we wait, Mom said. Could be an hour, could be 4 hours. Depends on the judge's schedule. It ended up being 2 hours. A bailiff called Mom's name and led us into a courtroom. A judge sat behind the bench, a middle-aged man with silver hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He reviewed the documents Mom had submitted. Mrs. Collins, the judge said, looking over his glasses at Mom, you're requesting emergency sole custody of your minor children and a restraining order against your husband. Can you explain the circumstances? Mom stood and explained everything. The affair, the confrontation, Dad choking me, Dad trying to grab Ethan at the diner. The judge listened without interrupting. When Mom finished, he looked at me. Son, can you verify that your father put his hands on your throat? I stood up. Yes, sir. He grabbed me and slammed me against my bedroom wall, squeezed my throat until I couldn't breathe. The judge made a note. And you, young man, the judge said to Ethan, did your father attempt to grab you this morning? Ethan nodded. He grabbed my wrist. My brother stopped him. The judge reviewed the photos, made more notes. Based on the evidence presented and the testimony provided, I'm granting emergency temporary custody to Mrs. Collins. Mr. Collins is ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from the family home, the children's schools, and Mrs. Collins's workplace. He is prohibited from direct contact with the children pending a full custody hearing scheduled for 3 weeks from today. Any violations will result in immediate arrest. Is that clear? Yes, Your Honor, Mom said, her voice thick with relief. The judge signed the order and handed it to the bailiff. This order is effective immediately. The sheriff's department will be notified and will serve Mr. Collins with the restraining order. Court is adjourned. We left the courthouse with the certified copies of the custody order. Mom was shaking. I can't believe that worked. I can't believe we actually got the order. What happens when Dad finds out? I asked. He's going to lose his mind. He'll find out within the hour, Mom said. The sheriff will serve him the papers. And yes, he's going to be furious, but there's nothing he can do about it without getting arrested. We drove home, and for the first time in 24 hours, I felt like I could breathe. Dad couldn't come near us, couldn't show up at the house screaming, couldn't grab Ethan or choke me. We were safe, at least temporarily. That safety lasted about 3 hours. At 6 o'clock, Mom's phone started ringing. She looked at the caller ID and her face went pale. It's your father, she answered on speaker. Dennis? Don't Dennis me? Dad's voice exploded through the phone. You got a restraining order? You're keeping me from my own children? For their safety, yes, Mom said calmly. You assaulted Trevor. You tried to grab Ethan. I'm not going to stand by while you get violent with our kids. I wasn't violent, Dad sputtered. I was angry. There's a difference. You put your hands on them, Mom said. That's violence. And until you can control your temper, you don't get access to them. This is kidnapping, Dad said. I'm calling my lawyer. I'm fighting this. You do that, Mom replied. And I'll bring the photos and witness testimony to the full hearing. We'll see how a judge feels about your temper then. Dad was breathing hard on the other end of the line. You turned my own sons against me. Ethan destroyed my marriage by sending those emails and Trevor's covering for him. They're both traitors. They told the truth, Mom corrected. You betrayed this family the moment you started lying. Don't try to flip this around. I want to see my kids, Dad demanded. I have a right to see them. Not according to the judge, Mom said. Not until the full hearing in 3 weeks. and I'll be requesting supervised visitation only. Over my dead body, Dad snarled. Then he hung up. Mom set the phone down with shaking hands. That went about as well as expected. The next 3 weeks were the strangest of my life. We existed in this bubble where Dad couldn't reach us, but his presence hung over everything like a storm cloud. He tried to violate the restraining order twice. Once he showed up at my school and security had to escort him off campus before he could find me. Once he parked across the street from our house at midnight. Mom called the police, and they showed him the restraining order, warned him he'd be arrested if he came back. Dad's lawyer sent letters threatening to sue for defamation, claiming Mom had poisoned us against him. Mom's lawyer sent letters back with documentation of Dad's violence and infidelity. The legal war escalated while we tried to maintain some kind of normal life. School became my escape. Classes, homework, hanging out with Lucas, anything to not think about the divorce and the custody battle. Ethan was struggling more. His grades dropped. He stopped playing soccer. He spent most of his time in his room playing video games or sleeping. Mom tried to get him to talk about his feelings, but he shut down every conversation. One night, about 2 weeks after the restraining order, I knocked on Ethan's door. He didn't answer, so I opened it anyway. He was lying on his bed staring at the ceiling. "You okay?" "Stupid question, I know." "No," Ethan said flatly. "I'm not okay. None of this is okay." I sat on the edge of his bed. "You want to talk about it?" "What's there to talk about? I destroyed our family. Dad hates me. Mom's stressed out constantly. You got choked because of what I did. Everything is my fault." I grabbed his shoulder and made him look at me. "Nothing is your fault. Dad destroyed the family by cheating. He got violent because his lies were exposed. You just revealed the truth. That's not the same as causing the problem." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "But if I hadn't sent those emails, maybe they could have worked it out. Maybe they'd still be together. And maybe you and Mom would have lived the rest of your lives not knowing Dad had a whole secret life," I countered. "You think that's better? Living with a lie?" Ethan wiped his eyes. "I just wanted Mom to know the truth. I didn't think it would blow up like this." "That's because you're a good person," I said. "You saw something wrong and you fixed it. The consequences aren't your responsibility. They're Dad's." We sat in silence for a minute. Then Ethan said quietly, "Do you think Dad will ever forgive me?" "I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I care. Dad showed his true colors when he got violent with us. That's not someone whose forgiveness I need." Ethan nodded slowly. "I think I hate him." "I think that's fair," I said. The custody hearing arrived on a cold morning in November. Mom had prepared us for what to expect. We'd have to testify about what happened, about Dad's violence, about whether we wanted to live with him. A guardian ad litem had been appointed to represent our interests, a woman named Ms. Rivera who'd interviewed us separately the week before. She'd asked about our relationship with both parents, about the violence, about where we wanted to live. Both Ethan and I had been honest. We wanted to live with Mom. We didn't feel safe around Dad. Ms. Rivera had taken notes and said she'd present her recommendations to the judge. The courtroom was more formal than the emergency hearing. Dad sat on one side with his lawyer, a sharp-looking man in an expensive suit. Mom sat on the other side with her lawyer, a woman who'd been practicing family law for 20 years. Ethan and I sat behind Mom. The judge entered, and everyone stood. When we sat back down, the judge reviewed the case file. "This is a custody hearing for the minor children Ethan Collins, age 13, and Trevor Collins, age 17. We're here to determine custody arrangements following separation of the parents and allegations of domestic violence. Mr. Collins, your attorney may present your case." Dad's lawyer stood and painted Dad as a devoted father who'd made mistakes in his marriage, but loved his children deeply. He characterized the affair as a symptom of a broken marriage, not a cause. He claimed Dad's anger on the night in question was understandable given the circumstances, though regrettable. He requested joint custody with equal parenting time. When he finished, Mom's lawyer stood and systematically destroyed every argument. She presented the photos of my neck. She brought up the incident at the diner with witnesses. She highlighted Dad's attempts to violate the restraining order. She argued that Dad had shown himself to be unstable and potentially dangerous. She requested sole custody for Mom with supervised visitation, only for Dad. The judge listened to both presentations. Then he called Ms. Rivera to present her findings. Ms. Rivera stood and explained that she'd interviewed both children extensively. She reported that both boys expressed fear of their father and desire to live with their mother. She noted that the older boy, Trevor, had visible marks on his neck consistent with strangulation. She reported that the younger boy, Ethan, had disclosed being the one who informed his mother of the affair and feared retaliation from his father. Her recommendation was sole custody to the two, mother with supervised visitation for the father, supervised by a professional third party. The judge made notes. He looked up at Dad. "Mr. Collins, do you have anything to say in your defense?" Dad stood. His face was haggard. "Your Honor, I made mistakes. I admit that. I had an affair and I lied about it, but I never meant to hurt my children. My anger that night was directed at the situation, not at Trevor. I grabbed his shirt. I didn't choke him. The distinction seemed important to Dad." The judge looked skeptical. "Mr. Collins, there are photographs that would suggest otherwise." Dad faltered. "I may have put my hand near his throat, but I didn't squeeze. I didn't cut off his air. Your Honor, may I address the court?" I found myself standing without consciously deciding to. The judge looked surprised, but nodded. Go ahead, young man. I walked to the front and faced the judge. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out steady. Your Honor, my father is lying. He didn't just put his hand near my throat. He grabbed my throat with both hands and squeezed until I couldn't breathe. He slammed me against the wall. I thought he might actually kill me in that moment. The terror I felt was real. The marks on my neck were real. My father is trying to minimize what he did because he knows it looks bad, but I'm telling you the truth. He assaulted me. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge studied me carefully. Why do you think your father did that? Because I wouldn't tell him what he wanted to hear. He wanted to know who told Mom about his affair. When I said I didn't know, he got violent. And when my brother Ethan revealed at the diner that he was the one who told, my father tried to grab him too. My father's violence is directly connected to his desire to control the narrative and control us. I don't feel safe around him. Neither does my brother. We're asking you to protect us. I sat back down. My legs were shaking. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. The judge made more notes. Then he looked at Ethan. Young man, would you like to say anything? Ethan stood up. His voice was small but clear. I told my mom about the affair because she deserved to know the truth. My dad had been lying to her for 3 years. When he found out it was me, he called me a traitor. He said I destroyed the family, but he destroyed the family when he cheated. I just made sure Mom knew about it. I'm scared of my dad now. I don't want to be alone with him. The judge nodded. Thank you both for your honesty. You may sit down. He reviewed his notes one more time. Then he spoke. After reviewing the evidence, testimony, and the guardian ad litem's report, I'm ruling as follows. Mrs. Collins is granted sole legal and physical custody of both minor children. Mr. Collins is granted supervised visitation every other weekend, supervised by a licensed professional at a neutral location. Mr. Collins is ordered to complete anger management courses and family therapy before any consideration of unsupervised visitation. The restraining order will remain in place until Mr. Collins completes these requirements. This ruling is effective immediately. Dad's face went from pale to red. He stood up. Your Honor, this is outrageous. You're taking my children away based on lies and manipulation. The judge's expression hardened. Mr. Collins, I'm basing my ruling on photographic evidence, witness testimony, and the clear statements of your children who are old enough to have their preferences considered. If you want to appeal this ruling, that's your right. But for now, this is the custody arrangement. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Dad's lawyer put a hand on his arm, probably warning him not to make things worse. Dad shook him off and pointed at Ethan and me. This is your fault, both of you. You'll regret this. The bailiff stepped forward. Mr. Collins, you need to leave now. Dad stared at us for another moment, then turned and stormed out of the courtroom. Mom burst into tears. Her lawyer hugged her. We did it, Carla. You got sole custody. It's over. But it didn't feel over. It felt like we'd just won a battle in a much longer war. We left the courthouse and went home. The house felt different now. Safer somehow knowing Dad couldn't show up unannounced. Mom ordered pizza and we ate in front of the TV, watching sitcom reruns, trying to pretend everything was normal. Around 9, Mom's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and frowned. It's Rachel. Why would she be calling me? She answered on speaker. Hello? Mrs. Collins? This is Rachel Whitmore. I know this is awkward, but I need to talk to you about Dennis. Mom's face hardened. I have nothing to say to you. Please, just listen for 1 minute. Rachel's voice was shaking. Dennis showed up at my apartment tonight. He's been drinking and he's saying disturbing things. He's talking about making his family pay, about teaching his kids a lesson. I think he might try to hurt someone. Mom sat up straight. Did he threaten anyone specifically? He keeps saying his sons destroyed his life, and he's going to make them understand what they've taken from him. Mrs. Collins, I know you have no reason to help me or to believe me, but I'm scared. I've never seen him like this. Where is he now? Rachel hesitated. He just left my apartment. He said he was going to fix things. Mrs. Collins, I think he's going to your house. Mom's face went pale. She hung up on Rachel and immediately dialed 911. My name is Carla Collins. My ex-husband has a restraining order against him, and I just received a call that he's on his way to my house making threats. I have 2 minor children here. We need police here now. She gave our address. The dispatcher said officers were en route. Mom hung up and looked at Ethan and me. Upstairs. Both of you. Lock yourselves in my bedroom and don't come out until I say it's safe. Mom, you can't stay down here alone, I protested. I'm not leaving you if Dad shows up. Trevor, I need you to protect your brother. Please, go upstairs now. The fear in her eyes made me move. I grabbed Ethan and we ran upstairs to Mom's room. I locked the door and pushed her dresser in front of it. Ethan was shaking. Is Dad really coming here? I don't know. Maybe Rachel was just messing with Mom, but we heard it in her voice. She was terrified. We both were. I pulled out my phone and texted Lucas. My dad might be coming to the house to hurt us. Police are on the way, but if something happens, tell them it was my dad. Lucas responded immediately. I'm calling my dad. He's coming over. Don't. If Dad shows up and your dad is here, someone could get hurt. Just stay there and be ready to call for help if I text you again. We waited in tense silence. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I heard sirens in the distance getting closer. The police were almost here. Then I heard breaking glass downstairs. Mom screamed. Dad's voice boomed through the house. Where are they? Where are my sons? I grabbed Ethan and pulled him into Mom's bathroom, locked that door too. If Dad got through the bedroom door, we'd have one more barrier. We heard heavy footsteps on the stairs. Dad was coming up. Mom's voice was pleading. Dennis, please! The police are on their way. You need to leave before they get here. I'm not leaving until I talk to my boys, Dad shouted. They need to understand what they've done. The bedroom doorknob rattled. The door was locked, but Dad started slamming against it. The wood cracked. Ethan was crying silently, his whole body shaking. I held him and tried to think. We were trapped. If Dad got through that door, there was nowhere to go. The bathroom window was too small to climb through. We were sitting ducks. The bedroom door gave way with a splintering crash. I heard Dad burst into the room. Where are you? I know you're in here. Come out and face me like men. Then I heard new voices. Police! Put your hands up. Get on the ground now. There was a scuffle. Dad shouting. More police voices. Then silence. A knock on the bathroom door. Trevor? Ethan? This is Officer Campbell with the police. Your father has been arrested. It's safe to come out now. I unlocked the bathroom door slowly. 3 police officers stood in Mom's bedroom. Dad was gone, presumably already in handcuffs downstairs. Mom burst into the room and grabbed both of us, sobbing. You're okay. You're both okay. Thank God. Officer Campbell gave us space for a minute, then spoke gently. Your father broke a window to get in. He's being charged with breaking and entering, violating a restraining order, and assault. He's going to jail. For how long? I asked. That'll be up to a judge. But with the restraining order violation and the violence, likely a significant amount of time. We gave statements to the police, explained what happened, what we heard, how terrified we were. They took photos of the broken window and the shattered bedroom door. By midnight, they were done. Mom boarded up the broken window. Temporarily, and we all slept in the living room together that night, none of us wanting to be alone. Dad was arraigned the next morning and held without bail. His lawyer argued he wasn't a flight risk, but the judge disagreed given his violence and willingness to violate court orders. Dad would stay in jail until his trial. That trial happened 2 months later. Dad was convicted of multiple charges and sentenced to 18 months in prison, followed by probation. When he got out, the restraining order would remain in effect. He'd have to petition the court to see us, and given his record, that petition would likely be denied. Ethan and I wouldn't have to see him unless we chose to. We didn't choose to. The divorce was finalized while Dad was in prison. Mom got the house, half the business, and full custody. Dad got his truck and whatever money his lawyer hadn't already burned through. The cabin had to be sold, and the proceeds split. Rachel disappeared from our lives entirely. I graduated high school that spring and got accepted to college 3 states away. Ethan finished middle school and started showing signs of the kid he used to be before everything fell apart. He joined soccer again, made new friends, started smiling more. Mom started dating a guy she met at work, someone kind and steady who treated her the way she deserved. Life moved forward. 2 years after Dad went to prison, I got a letter from him. It was forwarded through Mom's lawyer per the restraining order rules. I held it for a week before opening it. When I finally did, it was 4 pages of self-justification and blame. Dad claimed he'd been driven to violence by our betrayal, claimed he'd only been trying to protect his family, claimed if we'd just stayed quiet about the affair, none of this would have happened. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of his own responsibility, just anger and victimhood and demands that we forgive him. I read it once, then burned it in Mom's fireplace. Some people never learn. Some people never take responsibility for their actions. They just blame everyone else and expect the world to accommodate their dysfunction. Dad was one of those people, and I was done letting him occupy space in my head. 3 years after the arrest, I graduated college with honors. Mom and Ethan came to the ceremony. Lucas was there too. We took photos and went to dinner and celebrated everything I'd accomplished. That night, back at my apartment, Ethan pulled me aside. I never thanked you for protecting me that night, when Dad broke into the house. You could have tried to run, but you stayed with me. I'll never forget that. You're my brother, I said simply. That's what brothers do. Ethan smiled. I'm glad it was me who told Mom. I'm glad I found those emails, because if I hadn't, we'd still be living in that house with Dad's lies hanging over everything. Mom would still be miserable. We'd still be pretending everything was fine. At least now we're free. He was right. We were free. Free from Dad's violence, his manipulation, his toxic presence. Free to build lives that didn't revolve around his secrets and lies. Free to be the people we wanted to be, instead of the people he demanded we be. 5 years after Dad went to prison, his sentence ended. He was released on probation with strict conditions. He tried to reach out through social media, through mutual acquaintances, through his family members. We blocked every attempt. He wasn't part of our lives anymore, and we wanted to keep it that way. Last I heard, he was living in a different state, working construction, and still blaming everyone but himself for how his life turned out. The restraining order expired, but we didn't need it anymore. We'd built walls he couldn't cross, boundaries he couldn't violate. He was a stranger now, just a man who shared our DNA but nothing else. Mom remarried when I was 25. Her new husband was everything Dad wasn't. Honest, kind, patient, present. He treated Ethan like his own son. They had a good relationship built on respect instead of fear. At the wedding, Mom pulled Ethan and me aside. I know the last few years have been incredibly hard, but I want you both to know how proud I am of you. You told the truth when it was dangerous. You protected each other. You survived. That takes courage most adults don't have. We're proud of you too, Mom, I said. For leaving, for fighting, for choosing us over keeping up appearances. That night, watching Mom dance with her new husband, watching Ethan laugh with his friends, I realized something. Dad hadn't destroyed our family that night. He burst into my room screaming. He'd destroyed it years earlier with his lies and his affair and his violence. That night, he'd just exposed what was already broken. And in the rubble of that destruction, we'd built something new, something honest, something worth keeping. We were a family, not because of biology or legal documents, but because we'd chosen each other. We'd fought for each other. We'd survived together. And that was stronger than any bond Dad's violence could break. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.